Okay, so I know that there's not a place for it on here because I quite literally just typed out the questions and printed it. But we're going to put the frame for our inequality word problems just in a box off to the side here that we'll use for all the problems. And if you can write equations for real world problems, inequalities is not much different from that, okay? So here's the frame that you're going to use. You're going to have the rate times the number of times plus your one-timer, and then you have your inequality symbol and your total, okay? This is not new information. The only thing that's different is that I don't have an equal sign here because that's where our inequality is going to go. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was in your notes so that you guys can look at it later on when you're doing your homework. All right. You guys remember that from equations, right? The frame? Whew, you guys tired today? It's quiet in here. All right, so let's take a look at that first problem. Missy is saving to attend a week at summer camp. She needs $250 to register. Her parents will contribute $75. She needs to raise the rest of the money babysitting for $12 per hour. What is the minimum number of hours she must babysit in order to attend camp? Okay. So let's go through and fill in just the frame that we would usually use. Okay, so our total is here. She needs at least $250. You can also think of this as like the goal. Okay, that's what she wants to get to, right? Now, her parents gave her $75. They only give her one contribution of $75. So that is actually going to be our one-timer that goes right here. Our rate is going to be $12. Okay, anytime you see the per with it or each, you know that's the rate. And what should we have our variable be? H, great. Okay. So we'll let H equal the number of hours. Okay. Now, my question is, the amount of money that she makes and has, should it be greater than 250 or less than 250? Greater. Could it also be equal to? Yeah. Okay. So that is how you get that symbol in there. You just kind of have to use your logic to say, do I want this to be greater than 250 or less than 250? And usually, it depends on the problem. In this one, as long as she has $250, she can go to camp, okay? Now, so in our statement here, we wrote the equation. That's the first part of what we're going to do today. Now we're going to solve it, and we're going to interpret the solution. Okay, the interpreting part is important, so I'm going to make sure to do that with you. So this should be pretty straightforward for solving, so I'm going to do it pretty quick. We're going to solve this inequality. Okay, this isn't going to turn out pretty. It's going to be a decimal, but that is actually what I wanted because I wanted to talk about interpreting the solution. So we get, I would round that to 14.6 or so. Now, question for you. Let's assume that she can only work full hours. She can't work half hours or 0.6 of an hour. Would you round down to 14 hours or round up to 15? Up, right? Because she's trying to make enough money, and if she does 14, then she's 0.6 short, right? 0.6 hours short of her goal. So when you're answering this now, we answer it in a complete sentence. We would say, Missy needs to babysit 15 hours or more. Okay. This part is important. I need to know that you're not just a calculator. You can also understand what the answer means. Okay. We're going to skip number 2 for a moment and skip to 3 because 2 is a little different. So I want to do 3 first, and then if we have time, we can go back and do number 2. So I'm going to scooch this up. Okay. A jet ski rental charges a flat rate of $75. Where it says flat rate, that's the same thing as just saying that it's a one-time fee, okay? Plus an additional $60 per hour. We know that's going to be the rate because it's happening every hour. And then it says you do not want to spend more than $200. How many hours can you rent the jet ski and still be under budget? Okay, so you can't spend any more than 200. That's you want to keep it under that. So we're going to do our rates. 60. Maybe just use H again for hours. Yeah. And then you have that one-time fee of $75. And we want this to be less than what? 200. Okay, so you logic through that. You have your 200. And whatever amount this is, it needs to be either less than or it could be equal to 200, right? Okay, now that you have your inequality written out, we're going to solve it. This also is not going to be super pretty, but it's approximately 2 hours, a little bit more, I think. So let's do 125 divided by 60. Yeah, I would round that to about 2.1. But assuming that the rental company doesn't allow for half hours, would you round it down to $2 or 2 hours or round it up to 3? Down, because you're trying to keep under budget this time, right? So when we interpret the solution, we can say you can rent the jet ski for 2 or less hours. So far, so good, right? Okay, let's take a look at number 2. Because like I said, number 2 drums to its own beat. It's slightly different. And you'll see why in just a second. So let's come down here. Your youth soccer team is fundraising by washing cars. They paid $84.50 for supplies. If they charge $8 per wash, how many cars must be washed to make a profit of at least $300? So we want however much money they make to be greater than or equal to 300, right? And how much do they get per vehicle? $8. So 8, and I'll do W for my variable there. Now, question for you: are they getting $84.50? No. So what am I going to do differently here? Robbie, is that what you're going to say? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, because here's your profit. This is what they're getting. That's positive. But it's kind of like a debt. Okay, they paid this much, and so they need to be able to cover the cost of their supplies and then still make at least $300. All right? Are we good with the equation and why this makes sense? Yes? Okay, let's solve it. Okay. And this makes sense, right? Like, if you're going to cover the cost of supplies and still make $300, then the amount of money that they make from the car wash has to be at least $384.55. Okay. Now we'll divide. So we have W is greater than or equal to, and then if I divide this, $384.55 divided by 8. They're going to have to do, and it's funky decimal, so we're going to say 48.1. We'll round it to that. Okay. So are we going to round down to 48 or up to 49? Okay, and again, we have to do that because it wouldn't make sense to wash 0.1 of a car unless you're like, can you just wash my side mirror on the right side? You know, like that's just silly, though nobody ever asks for that. Okay, so we will round up to make sure that we actually do meet our goal, because if we rounded down, we wouldn't quite meet it. So we can say they must wash at least 49 cars. Okay. How y'all feeling about this? You're good? Sweet. Okay, like I said on that homework, I get it. The answer checker is only just verifying that you have the right equation, but on paper, you guys need to write the equation, solve it, and interpret the solution. So you should have stuff that looks like this on your paper, and you're turning it in tomorrow.